Alright, what I'm showing you here is going to be where directed energy weapons started fires or contributed to them right behind my house. So what I'm pointing out to you here is just a far back view, so you'll see what we're looking at when I put it up to the binoculars. Over here you're going to see that beneath each one of these patches of trees, that one, the one up above here, and this one over here, everywhere there's a patch of trees, the ground beneath it is completely black. Likewise here, and here, and here. And it's because that's the only place where there's a thick enough root going into the ground to draw that type of energy. Over here, you'll notice there's a rock ridge that runs right here up the mountain. At the bottom, we're going to look at these three patches of bushes, and you'll notice each one is black, and in between each of these patches of bushes is unburnt weeds. And then up here, there's a ring that goes right here. From the top of this rock ridge right there, it circles around to the left and then comes back around right here. And when I get it up to the binoculars, you'll see that each one of these patches of bushes is completely blackened at the base with unburnt leaves on the top, and they circle this ring of unburnt weeds. And everything up here matches the exact fire signature patterns that I saw over in Spanish Fork. And for those who are new to the channel, I'll show you later what makes me an expert on that kind of stuff. But from what I've seen, I haven't seen anyone really analyze these directed energy weapon fire signatures the way I have. And what I'm going to show you again is that each one of these clumps of trees here, there, wherever there's a clump of trees, because trees grow in groves and clumps, there's enough roots, there's another one there, going into the ground that it draws the energy up from below and burns it very hot at the base. So what you'll see here, you'll notice already the black ring right here at the base of these trees. Again here, and here, and over here, we're going to be looking at that one, this one, that one. They're all the same, with unburnt weeds in between, and the leaves on the trees are unburnt, but at the very base, it's black. And I have a broken footer. I'd already just hike on up there and show you. But I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, and then go up higher, 5, 6, every one of these groves of trees here. It's getting clear, it's getting obvious a little bit, but once I put the binoculars up to it, it'll steady it up and give you a close-up. So that's black, but at the very base of this grove of trees. Likewise with this grove and that grove and that grove. So I'm just giving you the far away so you know what we're looking at here in a minute when I get the close-ups. This one's pretty clear right there, the black circle at the bottom of the grove of trees. And what happens is it burns the base so much that the trees actually just flop over. And I can see that that's what's occurred with some of these. So at the base of this grove of trees and this grove of trees, those might not be burnt yet. That's on the closer hillside. You'll notice here the straight line, square. And here is this rock ridge I was talking about. Here is the rock ridge. 1, 2, 3, 4 black spots at the very bottom going up and to the left at a diagonal, and in between each one of those black spots is unburnt weeds going horizontally. And then up here, likewise, these are all groves of trees that burned at the base very hot, with unburnt leaves still left on the tree up top, and they all surround in a circular pattern the unburnt weeds in the middle. Sorry, this fly's bugging me. So I'm going to go ahead and throw it on the binoculars. We'll get some close-ups of all this. So here you can see, as I was saying, that at the base of each of these tree groves there is a circular black spot on the soil, and that corresponds directly with the roots in the ground below it. Anywhere that there's enough roots to go into the ground to act as a conductor, like wires, to draw up enough electricity, it actually scorches the ground to a darkened black spot. Leaving the leaves on the tree unburned above and all of the weeds around in between these scorched black spots. These are the same exact burn signatures that I've seen elsewhere, where I've collected the wood that clearly is from the directed energy weapon fires that burns them from the inside out, and the electricity comes from the ground up, burning only the base of the trees, leaving the leaves on the tree and the weeds in between each one of these tree groves unburned. So I'll just move it around a little bit in this area first before we go over to that next rock ridge. But you can see there's plenty of leaves on all of these, but the blackened soil beneath each of these tree groves burned hot enough that standard thermodynamics of a fire do not explain this. But the reason I'm already very familiar with this burn pattern is because I went and got in the middle of it so much after they hit in Spanish Fork. And for any newcomers, I'll show you some of the wood that I gathered from there and lacquered. So it looks like there's a little bit of distortion, like the heat waves are kind of pixelating it out once I zoom in that far. But I think it comes across pretty good. Ooh. This was a fire that was here in Springville on July 15th. Started at midnight and burned in a straight line pattern down the mountain. But obviously it wasn't really a straight line because of the sporadic burning. Here you can see at the upper part of the screen, all those trees still have their leaves on them, yet the base is burnt black. Likewise, all the black specks that you see along the dirt is anywhere that there was even right down to the smallest weeds. A small dry clump of weeds burns black at the base, leaving the upper 90% of the weed unburnt. Once I hike up there, I'll be able to show you this a little closer. But it's all the same burn pattern as I discovered and analyzed all throughout Spanish Fork, Park City, and everywhere else where these mysterious fires have been popping up. So this is the last look over here, and then I'll have to set it up to look over there near that rock ridge. But this is definitely electricity coming from below, burning much hotter at the base, leaving the unburned leaves all around. And often it burns so hot that it'll actually just make the whole tree branch burn and then tip over like a crop circle. I'll just leave that for future video once I get a chance to hike up there. But I can definitely see the burn pattern of the directed energy weapons, which do something like putting electricity into the ground that comes back up through the root systems, and that's why it burns so hot at the base of these tree groves where there's enough roots sticking into the ground that they act like a conductor, like electrical cable. So here's the top of that rock ridge, and if you notice, the only blackened part of the soil is where there's the larger trees that provide the larger roots that go down in the ground. Here's that rock ridge I was talking about, and from the bottom, I'll get you another angle to see these spots on the bottom that go up and to the left. That's kind of cool, having that vulture fly in the middle. But there's a ring of blackened soil that is at the base of all those trees that still have their leaves, mind you, but it burned hot enough to blacken the soil itself. And they form a ring around all of those unburned leaves. I'm sorry, around all of those unburned weeds. Here at the center screen we have the unburned weeds with the blackened soil all around, but at the tops of those trees they all still have their leaves. So what's happened here is the base of these trees, that is wood, probably 3 inches diameter, maybe some of it, has burned to a crisp. So right here, center screen, there's another grove of trees where it's black at the bottom. So I feel like I'm just kind of repeating myself a bunch of times now, because I can see the pattern even though we're this far away. And if you've seen a lot of my previous videos, which have mostly been already wiped out by YouTube and selectively removed individually, you'll recognize what we're looking at here. I'll try and reposition here to where we can see at the very bottom of this rock ridge. The rock ridge is in the center of the screen, going up and to the left slightly. At the bottom of the rock ridge, where the top of that green tree starts, the green tree is in the foreground, kind of blocking my view. But there's 3 or 4 circles of trees, tree groves, that form those black patches moving up and to the left. And in between each one, there is unburnt weeds, because the weeds don't produce enough root to go down into the ground to act as a conductor. And the way these fires work is just very odd, where the way it burns is from the root up, from the bottom up. That's cool. Check out that bird. Caw-caw! Caw-caw! Okay, back to the fires. Let's see. What did I do? Uh-oh. So right here you can notice an unburned strip of trees that runs between 2 highly burned parts of trees, and the uneven burn pattern all over this mountain is the first clue. So notice the straight line that seems to almost go up and make a right angle turn at the top of that, and then we'll pan over and show you some more very similar lines and uneven burning pattern. Maybe. Maybe. First, let's just check that out a little more. Can't quite explain how that burn pattern exists, but once I get up close and my foot heals to where I can hike again, I'll take a camera up there and be able to prove beyond a doubt that this wasn't just a normal fire. But for now, I can see it from here. That was actually a good shot a second ago. Notice at the very top of the screen, more of the same pattern where it's black beneath the unburned leaves. And now, as we pan to the right, you can see that it's spotty, but each one of those spots is at the base of a tree, and that's because each one of those trees has roots going down into the ground. And that's just how these weird fires work. Field-activated combustion synthesis is one name that's been given to it by James Grundvig, Grundvig. And he explains approximately his best understanding of how these directed energy weapons work. And it's something like underground lightning that comes from below up through the root systems and burns the ground beneath the unburned leaves. Take one last look over here, and then that'll be it until I hike up there and get some of these fire anomalies up close. But it's the same directed energy weapons that were used in Paradise, California. And I've seen a lot of people cover the melted metal and the melted glass, but not many people covering just the way the wood burns. Because melted metal and glass requires a metallurgist or someone who knows the melting temperature of glass, and that's just so foreign to us. But when you see the way this wood burns, that's something we've seen a lot more, and we can understand as regular people who have just had fires, campfires. And because we've all seen wood burn a million times and know that dry leaves burn long before the wood beneath them. But in these cases, the wood stalks of the tree burn from the inside out and much hotter at the denser wood. The knot burns hotter than the rest of the wood, which is contrary to regular fire because it is more dense than the regular wood. So it takes longer to burn a knot than the regular wood, and it's harder to split a log when you're trying to split a knot because it's more dense and harder wood. In these cases, it's the exact opposite. The knot has more fibers running to it and through it, and thus conducts more electricity and is the first thing to burn. So these things burn the exact opposite. The denser wood beneath those dry leaves of those tree groves burns hotter and creates ash piles literally directly beneath unburned piles of leaves. Which is, to the untrained eye, just basically forest fire, but I've went out there and looked through this stuff enough that... So this one's a good example. All the main black ring in the middle is centered where there's bigger trees that create larger amounts of roots that go into the ground. And that soil is actually burned hot enough that it blackened the soil and turned a lot of the wood right there to ash, while leaving the leaves on the tree unburned. And all of the little black speckles around the trees are the patches of weeds. And each one of those patches of weeds does the same thing. It burns hot at the bottom and leaves the top unburned. So, what we had here in Springville was another directed energy weapon fire right in my backyard. Yep. That's what it is. So, soon enough I'll hobble on up there and get some better footage, but for right now I'm going to pull the camera away from the binoculars and show you the patch that we're looking at right now without the zoom, and you'll be able to see. Hopefully we'll be able to see. The patch we were just looking at is actually right here, but I don't think directly above the rock. Where is it? Oh, the patch we were just looking at is actually right there. But it's not very easy to see unless you get that zoom. But yeah, the patch we were just looking at is that one right there. And then over here, try and stabilize this a little bit. You can see right there, let me grab my little pointer stick. Right here, there's a straight line. We were looking at that, and there's the smaller patch up and to the left, and the unburnt weeds and trees in between the two. This is kind of like a straight line that goes up to the top and takes a 90-degree angle turn. Not sure how to explain that. Likewise, over here, we have kind of a straight line, and this is the rock ridge we were looking at with the patches of tree groves forming a ring around the unburned weeds there in the middle. And here at the bottom left, these are the small patches of trees with unburned weeds in between them as well. It had to be due. Yeah, indeed it was due. And see if I can find, oh, that's where we started. Each one of these patches of trees, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, has the same burn signature with the blackened soil at the bottom and unburned leaves on the top. So next time I'll get you close-ups.